Another choppy day in the markets, guys. We've got tons of pressure on BTC, and these altcoins seem relentless to the downside. So what we're going to get today is some clear Bitcoin levels that I am currently working on. You're also going to leave here with some altcoin setups, longs and shorts. Let's go. And remember, as always, hit that like, hit the bell, and hit the subscribe. Now, I am coming to you a little bit early today, and this is a pre-record, and I just want to give you guys a couple of very important zones from me, and a couple of very important setups that I am tracking because I'm not available for the live show later on today. Okay, so hopefully this is going to leave you guys with some kind of action plan as we get through the day. Now you can see pretty much a mixed bag, but a notable, some of these outperformers, other than Dash, which looks like it's collapsed, but outperformers that I've been watching, ZK did really nicely on the recovery, Hype did really well, Pump did really well yesterday as well, and then a couple of like underperformers. 𝗬has been very disappointing for me. We had a couple of pumps. Virtual has been a little bit disappointing as well for me. Is that narrative still going to hold for us? So let's take a look at the important stuff, and this was the first one I spoke about yesterday, this fear and greed index, and I actually wanted to see Bitcoin at 98k with the fear and greed index at 17, and when I got to my desk this morning I was quite excited. I thought we were going to see this in the teens, but for some reason they are less scared than they were yesterday, even though Bitcoin has now dropped down into the 98k zone that I was covering. So from a higher time frame perspective, this was the big level that I dropped in the Chart Hackers Discord late last night when the market was falling over, and I did cover this on the show. And you know, for me, the power of this zone was this order block, the 0.5 fib, and that wick all the way between 100k and 98k. This was always going to be a very big zone for us to pay attention to, and quite a strong zone to hold. So in terms of the plan on the 3-day chart, I still like the look of something like this on BTC, some kind of relief rally before they come and send us lower. Now, on the higher time frame, obviously we can argue loads of different areas, but what I would suggest is, you know, let's not get too euphoric past this 106k. Let's pay attention. If we're pushing 110, let's be super cautious up there if this level is going to hold. So right now, higher time frame, guys, you can see our wick into this 98k region. Let's for today's sake, let's make the assumption that this thing is going to hold. Now, if it doesn't hold, what do we do? Do we need to be prepped for lower? Well, guys, keep it simple as usual. When there is weakness in the market, always make sure you know where your next game plan is. And I have stink bids ready and waiting at 94,300. I've got some orders waiting here to pick up Bitcoin if there is another capitulation event. That is a 618 macro fib. You know I love these reactions of these zones. So 94,300, I've got orders waiting over there. And then I do have one. It's a little bit dark. I don't think we really want to go there today or this week, but it's again, this is on the table now. It's this 88 to 87k region, and you can see it's simply an inverse undercarriage that I'm watching here at the moment. So these are all typical bounce zones where if the shit's hitting the fan, things are falling over, these are the zones you're looking for reactions from. Let's look at some lower time frame stuff. So what I've done here is, because we've had such a sharp dip in the market, I normally track the 2-hour chart, but because the dip was so sharp, I've broken this down into the 15 minutes, and I just want to give you guys a game plan that's probably valid during the course of the next, say, 4 to 6 hours in terms of this lower time frame Bitcoin situation. Now, we've got the US Open in about probably, by the time this recording goes live, you probably got US Open in about 2 or 3 hours from the time you are watching this. But some important zones for me that I'm paying attention to today. Look at this possible dip here into the 100k 200, so 100,200. This could be a long opportunity for you guys here. If we get a little brief flush and then a little bit lower down, we can see our lows at 99k. Now, the interesting thing is the US, did they pick up some entries there yesterday, get a nice push, and then did these Asians come and drop them down and wipe out all the US entries? And the question I'm asking myself here is, are these the entries that Asians want to hold now for a bigger move? And if this is the case, we might see a situation where we just get a drop into that 618, for example, and then we get a nice sustained move to the upside over the next couple of days. So watch these two downside levels. These are both reasonable long zones, 100,000, 200 and 99K. They both look like reasonable areas to me. What I suggest is look for stop hunts in these zones. Look to be put under pressure here. They're not going to make it easy for you if they are going to come. So even down to say 98.5, something like that, on BTC could be a play for you guys. Now, if we do start churning higher and you're watching the show and these zones didn't hit to the downside, but the market is ripping, I want to give you guys some upside areas just to watch and just be a little bit cautious at. These are typical TP zones as well, especially for the lower time frame traders. 102,900 into 103.5. This region over here looks like a danger zone to me. Note this undercarriage sitting in that region. That could offer us a rejection. So anything up to 103,600, and then a little bit higher up, I've got 105, and then notable, I've got the VWAP at 105,900. So look out for a wick possibly into the VWAP. But these are the danger zones to the upside, and these should tide you over for the day. Now, obviously, if we lose these lows, guys, we go back to the higher time frame chart and we start looking at these types of levels. But right now, this is all you need to focus on until we get action above or below these types of regions. Now, let's just look at a couple of important markers here. Number one, Bitcoin dominance. You can see we had a big rejection through the highs, nice little wick through the upside. And obviously, as altcoin traders and guys holding on to alts, we want to see a sustained push to the downside now on this Bitcoin dominance. So you can see at the moment we are chopping around. No doubt we're going to have a lot of action in the US later today as well. So key supports here. Where do we look for danger? 60.4%. If dominance drops here and we get an altcoin push and we hit that zone, that is a danger zone. If dominance drops further and these altcoins are flying, 60.1%, look out there. That is another danger zone. And remember, any pushes, if you are bleeding in the market and you're pushing into a zone like that, you typically are looking for a bounce or some alt strength at one of these types of areas. You can see there's our 200-day MA as well. So just get this chart out, track this chart, and then obviously USDT dominance. This is the whole market that we need to watch. And you can see also a fake out to the upside, and you can see I've got two big zones now, 5.52 and 5.74. As long as we are under these and rejecting, there might be some kind of relief in the market. Now, if this explodes through the upside, all bets are off, and we're going to need to start tracking Bitcoin 94K, 88K. So just be ready. Always have a game plan in place. Make sure you know where you are reacting at your next zones. Obviously, in a perfect world, we get a nice pump to the upside first. That frees us up to take some profits, frees us up to look for a couple of head shorts, which I'm going to give you guys some setups today on those things. But make sure you are prepped to the downside. Okay, so there's the big ones there on USDT dominance. Now let's get into altcoins. I've got ETH, I've got Sol, I've got 𝗨, Virtual, Hype Pump, XRP even, and some privacy coins here. So let's go and let's just try and get our heads around what to do and what the plan is. Okay, so looking at ETH, I've broken this down into the 3-day for you guys. Obviously, my first port of call always when there's tons of weakness in the market, I immediately just start zooming out. I try and look for my major reaction zones, and you can see ETH was really abused over the last couple of hours. It's taken a ton of pain, and 3,170 is now our big support zone that we can use on this time frame. Is the pain over is the question, and I must say, just looking at this chart as it stands currently, this is starting to look like a really likely situation for me on ETH. So a possible push into 3,800, give or take, maybe a little bit less, and then a potential rejection. Now, naturally, this is trying to look super far ahead, and you guys know I don't like to look that far ahead in the market. I just like to be reactive on these types of zones. But when you see a chart like that, obviously this starts playing on your mind as a possible scenario. So for me, any strength here on ETH, I think we need to be careful. 3.6 to 3.7, 3.8, anywhere to the upside, because it just could be the beginning of some kind of bigger move to the downside. I do love this undercarriage here on ETH, and you will note it ties in pretty nicely with that undercarriage there on BTC. So you might find the twins doing their thing. Okay, so 2,750 could come into play at some point on ETH. Let's look at Solana. Same story. And what I was suggesting yesterday was on my high time frame charts was a dip into this 618. Now, as you can see, it's gone way below, and it dropped into 145 after initially reacting on that 618. I think they gave us a 3 or 4% bounce before they came and tried to end us. Now, what is the game plan for me? So I've mapped this one out for you. 168.5, 175. These are your typical rejection zones. These are possible short zones here on Solana. If we do pump into the area, I just want to say, notable 200-day moving average. Look at that. That's also the neckline of that head and shoulders. Look at that box over there. You see that zone there. So that could be a big resistance zone. So 175 into 178, for example, mark that level there. If we get aggressive in the markets today, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's make sure we are banking profits and playing the game accordingly. Now, in terms of support, what you can do is you can use these lows on Solana, and it's a hell of a dip still, 145. You can use that. And again, plan B, what if the market collapses? Well, I've got a 786 fib for you in quite a nice area. That's a macro fib at 130. Okay, so I've got limit orders ready there for Solana at 130 in case they are going to come capitulate us. We know if that happens in the next couple of days, we know we're going to get a very strong bounce out of this market. We just need to know the levels that we are operating on. And for me, 130 for Sol looks like an absolute banger if this current region fails. Okay, now these charts will make sure they go into the Chart Hackers Discord for you guys directly after the show. Well, directly after you've seen the show, we'll put them in the Chart Hackers Discord there for you guys. Let's look at ARK. So this was a short from yesterday. This was part of my shitcoin casino on the RSI heat map. And look, we had a bit of a mixed bag yesterday, no doubt. I mean, we lost a couple of levels, but some of these did play out pretty nicely. And just a reminder again, we've got quite a strong hit rate on this 4-hour RSI heat map casino, but you got to play small size. You got to be super careful. So anyone who took this ARK, this thing has now played out, and the danger is now we are sitting on support, and this is a possible exit plan now for ARK, unless you have a longer term view and you want to try and ride this thing potentially a much lower down. But that ARK play is pretty much done now onto support. If it drops lower, obviously that is a bonus. Now let's look at these outperformers here. Zcash, what is going on with this thing? So yesterday I did put a note out that 500 was a big danger zone for me. This is a macro 618 pool, and we know these things are serious levels. Okay, now we're tracking Zcash all the way back into January, December 17 from those highs. This is a proper 618 macro danger zone. So 500 for me is a really big area on Zcash. If it blows higher, 630, guys, and I'm feeling like at some point we're going to get, you know, something like this. We've seen this privacy narrative before. We've seen the market pump before, and at some point all good things come to an end. Okay, I haven't seen a story in crypto where we haven't had a massive collapse after some narrative absolutely exploded. So how do we go about this? Yesterday, I touched on the idea that we might have a right shoulder rejection here on Zcash round about this major area that I was tracking, and this could be the start of a potential downside. Now, I just want to highlight for you guys, like, it's already rejected in the zone, but it's fighting back super quickly at the moment. You can see we've already had a 10%, 9% rejection on Zcash, but it is now having another crack at the zone. So I want to say, if you are still short here, just be super careful. I haven't gone big. I've got a very low risk, low size short here in this area. If there is momentum, we can play it back later. And I did say to the Chart Hackers Discord this morning, I'm not entirely happy with the current oscillator. I wanted to see this oscillator printing tons of divergence or reversing at this type of area, and unfortunately it's not doing that just yet. So I'm a little bit careful here at the moment with Zcash, but I am bearing in mind the fact that we could quite easily have a situation where they have a final blow off top. I have no doubt there are lots of shorters here, and we pump this thing through there potentially, and we reverse at about, say, even 520 could come into play if they do hit us with a wick to the upside. Okay, so just something to watch. I'm getting a little bit cautious with the Zcash. It is getting a little bit overcooked for me. And look, granted, it could go higher. It could carry on forever. But look, we've seen this movie before, and now I'm starting to lean to the side of caution on Zcash. Now let's talk about ZK. And this thing has been doing relatively well as well. It really held nicely during yesterday's sell-off. And what I wanted to give you guys was just a little map that I put in the Chart Hackers Discord earlier today. Again, depending on the timeline when you guys are viewing this this play, look at 566 into 538. Okay, well, the reason I've labeled this whole area is because I've got the 200-day moving average coming into play here, as well as support for the local bull zone. So 566 is ideally your first area you want to pay attention to. You want to see that thing hold, and then the 200-day MA slightly lower at 538. Could be an area for you. Where could there be possible fresh trades? Well, if this thing explodes to the upside, you're going to see some kind of rejection in this zone. This is a macro 236 fib danger zone in this region. Okay, so we got big trouble up here. If you pull your fibs, that 236 is sitting in that area. So what you want to see is some kind of breakthrough, break through that zone, then a retest, and then we could get some proper upside on the ZK. But until then, what you can do is look for scalps in this region. Lower down, let's see, you've got some decent support in that area. Right now, you can see we might get a little bit more downside on this oscillator. Let it play out for now. Okay, but these things are hands down, they've been showing way better strength than a ton of these other altcoins. And if you were only sitting in these types of things yesterday, you probably wouldn't even have felt much downside on that current dump. Okay, let's talk about 𝗏. So this thing's been a challenge for me. So this was my when entry, and they gave us 2 big moves on 𝗏. So I just want to show you guys. I've left this trade as it was yesterday, but I mean an absolute nightmare, and just a representation of the amount of chop we have had. Look at that. Yesterday they dropped us into our entry. They gave us a 10% pump to the upside. Then they dropped us back down in that Asia session. What did they give us? They gave us another 5.5% bounce to the upside, and now they flushed it down again. But what I want to highlight here for you guys is the strength of this 200-day MA, this 50-day MA. And I was saying here yesterday, there's a possible wick into this 250-day region. Okay, but I mean, look, I've round tripped on this 𝗏. Obviously, I couldn't trade it while I was sleeping, and I've basically watched it do 2 round trips into that region after an initial 10% pump. So pretty frustrating for now. But what I can suggest, anyone trading 𝗏, what you can use or what you can do is you can go into the higher time frame. And what I've done here is I'm just looking at it on a 4-hour. I just want to show you guys a couple of levels as to what is going on. And you can see here, there's a clear exit plan for a close under this candle now. So anybody still sitting in this thing, you can use that 364 as a possible exit plan if you fancy yourself a bit of 𝗏. We are printing bullish divergence. Again, it might roll over one more time and print a further divergence. Again, the divergence doesn't guarantee that you get a big move, but it is normally a great starting point on decent support to see a bullish divergence print. Okay, so 𝗏 364, probably another reasonable cut area, and you can see a sell-off like that generally will result in some kind of bounce. Okay, again, we can't guarantee. We saw yesterday we got a 10% move in a matter of minutes, so you know, anything like that could start playing out for us on this 𝗏. If you're looking for something, I would say if the market dishes you out 10% and you're awake to receive it, I think take it with both hands in these types of conditions. I think it's a gift, and as you can see yesterday, they gave us 2. Let's talk virtual. Also been an interesting one. This one hit our zone, and I've undone my when entry, but essentially the when entry was here, guys, and we were saying a wick or a close below that I think it was 1.29, give or take, whatever, was the exit zone. Now you can see they chopped us around yesterday as well on virtual. Look at that, 10% pump, 11% pump there. Then they gave us, what did they give us yesterday? 8% pump as well. So these zones are working, but it's just the selling has been absolutely relentless in the market as things stand. So what is the current plan for virtual for me? Well, I'm still parked in some virtual, and I'm obviously trying to look for some upside, but I need to have a game plan. And what is my game plan? Well, I'm watching this region over here at the lows. It's an order block 1.2 into the 100-day moving average at 1.17. So if they do come a bit lower, that is going to be the final zone there for me, looking for something to happen in that area, and that will print again further divergence, I would say, on the oscillator. So looking out for that big level here to the downside, guys, 1.2 to 1.17. And if there is upside again, I think we've seen quite clearly now with 𝗏 and virtual, any gift the market gives you, look to exit. Okay, so anybody still sitting in virtual, what you can do is you can look at some typical rejection zones here. Let's just take these order blocks out of the way. Bang, bang. Okay, there, that is what we're going to look at. So your 2 rejection zones are 1.42, and your next one, probably a big rejection zone, 1.5. So you could possibly look for a couple of shorts in that type of region. And let's just highlight the short box for you. Where's this thing? There it is. Okay, so we're going to just bang out something like that. Okay, so look out for a pump. You'll probably get about 2.5–3% risk here on this thing, and that could be a possible short setup for you guys. So any hard pushes here into that zone or into the secondary zone at the top there, look for some kind of sell, some kind of rejection here to the upside. Then let's talk ICP. I missed this one, unfortunately, straight into the macro fib that I gave you guys yesterday. Look at that beautiful undercarriage, beautiful 382, big rejection. So again, I don't know what was driving this ICP move yesterday, but you can see monster sell-off now out of that short zone. And in terms of potential bounces, well, it is moving into a support area here. 4.7, you can play around with that one, and you can also play around with 4.25. So I would steer away from trying to short it on support, especially if it's dropping the way it has. You can see we've dropped probably, what, 20%, give or take here. We've dropped 26% on ICP. So I would steer away from shorts. I would say look for some degree or some kind of bounce in one of these regions, 4.7, 4.25. On this ICP. Okay, now another one really basically pulled me out of the grave was Hyperliquid. This thing really started ramping up yesterday, and I just want to show you where we are and what the game plan is. I've still sitting in a hype long. I have started a hedge short position just in case these guys are going to send us a little bit lower. You can see the oscillator a little bit overcooked here at the moment, but for me, big area here. This is our VWAP from the highs. This is our 382. So 41 is a big danger zone. So even if they flush again, look out for that rejection here at 41. If the market really gets some gears going later today, 44.4, 44.5, that is a possible short zone there, guys. That is an exit zone for me. Okay, if we pump into that zone, I am done. I'm out of this thing. 44.4, 44.5. Right now, you can see resistance zone. Now, the bulls who missed, maybe they missed the long, they're looking for action. Where's the bull zone? Where can you guys try and get something? I would say reasonably 38.8 to 38 is a reasonable bounce zone, a reasonable bull zone. So if they are going to come here today and give us some kind of flush out during the US or leading into the US market, look for that higher low. Okay, look for that dip bang, and then look for that bull move from that 38.8 into 38.1. Okay, so you've got some supports here, you've got some rejection zones, you've got some ping pong areas to play in. So just remember, if you are dancing around the market here, just grab some of these charts, and you can also do it quite simply on your charts as well. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm pulling fibs from the lows, VWAPs, I'm taking VWAPs from highs, fibs from highs, and I'm just tying in some nice reaction areas. So everybody is obviously able to do that, and you can also do my accelerator course if you want to figure out how I put these things together. Okay, another story, pump. I covered this one yesterday. Massive recovery here, but it dropped into this easy zone. Look at this. Look at this beautiful area here at what were we at? 34, 347 into 342, and then a hell of a strong reaction. So I just want to Okay, so just continuing where I left off here on pump, look at this 362. This is going to be the big first bull zone for me that makes sense, and purely because I don't like the look of this wick over here. So if they do bleed you, that is where I would say try and grab some possible longs there for a bounce. But you can see here, this box up here, 412 to 395, very big danger zone. I would be super careful in that area. Let's look at XRP, James's favorite thing, and you can see this thing's made a monster recovery as well, and this thing's churning higher. But again, my favorite thing to do is try and find some short zones on XRP, and I've got an absolute cracker for you here, 2.38 into about 2.45. This area looks really good. Look out for that rejection into trend. Look out for this push into that zone. Okay, that could be an absolute banger here for XRP shorters. Any XRP bears out there, that could be a lot of fun. And yeah, that's about it, guys. I mean, my trading account essentially looks like a bit of a Christmas tree. You can see the shit's going down, up, down. It's been a hell of a story trying to manage some of these positions and just get through the pain out there, as I'm sure you guys have also been feeling a lot of stress in the markets and stuff like that. So remember, the pain does always come to an end. What I can suggest for everyone here, play the big zones consistently. So at rejection zones, look to TP, look for head shorts. On big support zones, look for the longs. Okay, just be consistent in the way you do things, and then eventually everything does work out to the right way. Okay, so guys, just hang in there. And yeah, sorry about the pre-record. Sorry I couldn't be with you in real time later on, but I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, the usual time. Okay, catch you guys later.